Welcome to the Past Present Feature Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Valerian Projectors, featuring the Valerian Vision Master Pro 2, a filmmaker and film lover's dream. This outstanding 4K HDR tri-laser projector boasts 3000 ISO lumens, Rec 2020 color, and an impressive 15,000 to 1 contrast ratio. That gives you those deep, rich blacks in every frame. That's what I as a filmmaker care about the most. With IMAX and Dolby Vision compatibility, Google OS, Active 3D, Filmmaker Mode, the list of impressive specs is endless. It delivers an exceptional cinematic experience when viewing the films of our podcast guests. Head over to Valerian.com to get yours today. That's VALERION.com. Co-directors David Joseph Craig and Brian Crano share their take on the unique blend of horror and comedy in their latest film, I Don't Understand You, now in theaters following South by Southwest. Past films discussed include Eugene Levy's 1992 crime comedy, Once Upon a Crime. They share their personal experiences working with producing partners Joel and Nash Edgerton, what it's like to film in Rome, and the importance of collaborating with an Italian crew. The conversation also touches on nostalgia for 90s films and the evolving landscape of cinema, emphasizing the need for originality and risk-taking in storytelling. David and Brian also discuss the dynamics of co-directing, the importance of collaboration in editing, and the need for authenticity and joy when creating films. David, you worked on a movie called Boy Erased. Mm-hmm. My former roommate production designed that movie, Chad Keith. Did you ever get
No way!
You know Chad?
I love Chad.
Yeah, I knew. Well, if you knew him, then I figured you would say something like that because everybody loves Chad. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Wonderful.
I lived with Chad in Wilmington, North Carolina, back
in
2009.
Chad's fantastic. We had such a fun time on that film, even though it was a bummer of a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a good one though. So the Joel Edgerton connection.
Joel did The Gift before that. That was here in LA. But yeah, no, I think you were asking about that connection. But yeah, I started working with Joel. That's kind of how I got my way into the world of creativity in a way, which was, I was acting before that. And a mutual friend connected Joel and I started working with him, and I worked with him for about 10 years. And that was my film school. That was how I learned how to make a movie.
Nice. And yeah. I saw Nash. So Joel Edgerton, Nash Edgerton, the brothers, they produced this film?
They did.
Yeah. And when I see Nash's name, I always think about Spider, that short film.
Oh, yeah, it's so great.
Insane. Have you seen all of them? Have you? Yeah.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. He had, after Spider was Bear.
And yeah. I saw Bear.
And then I think maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, he did another one called Shark with Rose Byrne. Yeah, no, he's fantastic, and he was our stunt choreographer, stunt director on our film as well.
I saw that in the credits. One more shout out to Chad Keith. Chad's the one that showed me Spider back in the day.
Nice. Awesome.
That was
Chad.
Hey Chad, how you doing? I don't know. It's something about it was one of the first short films that I saw online where it's like, whoa, this is like bigger than what I thought a short film could be.
Yeah, I think for us too, like I think before I even knew and started working with Joel, I knew of Nash's work, and I think it really drew both Brian and I'll speak for myself, but drew me into comedic stunt work. I think that is something that is, Nash has inspired me endlessly with like what you can do with stunts and how you can push them into a sort of comedy world, which is kind of what inspired us on a lot of our stunts as well.
And that's what makes this film unique compared to anything I've interviewed about on this podcast so far. Yeah, which I should go ahead and say, I Don't Understand You is a horror comedy from 2024. Well, it's here now, but you guys premiered at South by Southwest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. And then you did what did you have after that? I forget.
We did Overlook and Frameline, and that's it. One more.
It's great. I enjoyed it. Thank you for sending me the screener. I love these movies and I've seen a lot of them recently where it seems like around the first, after like the first third or the midpoint, around the midpoint where they it shifts from like a genre, like genre A to genre B. It shifts from like I don't know how much you want to talk about or not talk about, but I just love. Okay. I just love how it was like this escape to Italy, like a light rom-com, then it just turns into like a fucking murder.
Yeah.
So Brian, you are from East Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I was born there, and then we moved around basically every year until I went to UCLA when I was 16. And then I moved to London to do drama school over there. Multiple degrees in pretending across different continents is the idea.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And how was UCLA?
Oh, it was the best. It was the best, the greatest, coolest education, smart, interesting people. And unlike many theater schools here, they expose you to kind of world theater is the idea. So you're not just doing sort of Eugene O'Neill endlessly on a loop. You're doing Japanese puppet theater and German and expressionistic dance. And you just sort of see that there's all of these different kind of ways to tell a story. And that I think more than anything, while still doing all of your sort of structural Aristotelian, kind of breakdown of script kind of stuff, that place really made my brain work for this job.
My kid is 5 years old. He's got some time, but he's already obsessed with filmmaking and everything filmmaking behind the scenes and all this. So being in LA, it's like, where is he going to go? You just start kind of daydreaming. Where's he going to go to school? If he does go to film school, wait, should he go to UCLA? Should he go to USC? Should he go to School of the Arts, North Carolina? But it's nice.
What's his birthday? We have a 5-year-old.
September 19th.
Okay, we're December 14th, 2019.
Okay. Wow, what a crazy little pocket. I mean, thankfully we got in right before COVID, right?
Yeah.
Then was able to hang out with him during COVID.
We say the same thing. That was literally like at first we were like, oh shit, like we're in this with a little kid, and then we were like, oh, had we not had COVID for a year and a half in our house, we wouldn't have seen our kid as much as we did. It was amazing.
It was a blessing. It was
great.
What the fuck? That happened. Forgot about that.
That's crazy.
So veer back to your movie. Okay, so how did you guys... Let me just jump into this. Why this movie? Why did you guys have to make this movie? Let's talk about, I guess, the origin of how it came together and, not too much into production, but kind of just the development and like the beginnings of this film.
Well, the development was we had been through, the first act of the movie is pretty accurate to our life experience in terms of like navigating an adoption process, which is not super simple. And we had been through an adoption scam before we matched with our birth mother. And neither of us really it was devastating in a way that, of course, on its face, it would be devastating. But the thing that was really interesting about it for our house, and the movie's a comedy, guys, so don't, this is going to get funnier, I guess, is like we both dealt with it really differently, and like we're processing it really differently and really separately. And then we're like, okay, we have this, or it's about to be our 10th anniversary. We had this trip planned already. Like, should we even do it? Because we're in this kind of like weird place. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's do it. And then truly days before we were about to go, we found out that we had matched with a new birth mom. The whole vibe was different. It was crazy. And she was so great and so kind of like clear and resolute about what she wanted, and that she wanted to do this with us. And
we pitched it, and then we got stuck in the ditch.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the middle of rural Italy. And the next day we called Joel Edgerton and sort of told him this story, and he was like, "Oh, mate, it's a horror film." And it was just off to the races then.
Oh, interesting.
And what we didn't realize, what we didn't associate immediately, but then as soon as we started writing it, we were like, "Oh, this comes back to the feelings of how kind of broken open you are when you're expecting your first child and don't know anything about what's going to happen, and you're so freaked out. You're like, I'm the lady in the woods with the flashlight about to get cut up, like it's had a sort of emotional resonance between a horror genre and like our experience as prospective parents. And then the other thing is we're just like deeply silly people. And so like once we started writing a quote horror film, we were like, well, it should have some jokes. So like, and we just kind of progress from there.
My brain goes to two places. One is the autobiographical elements. It seems like is such a running thing with successful films being made today. And the power of just using autobiographical, things from real life to, write what you know, I guess is one thing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, power of genre filmmaking too, right? Where you can,
Totally.
where you shift to a horror genre and it's like, whoa, how much it opens up or how much more, you can kind of do with that, how much freshness comes with that. So, I guess my question for you would be, whenever Joel made that suggestion, saying, this is a horror film, mate, were you immediately like, oh yeah, this is great? Or were you like, wait a minute, I don't know. Like, how did you take that at first?
I think for me, I was a little reluctant about it at first, just because I was like, it feels, I guess I just hadn't wrapped my head around it. Like we were so in the middle, we were like holding our baby and we were like so in that moment that it was like a little bit like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like it probably is. And he really encouraged us to do it. And I think, and I really thank him, now, because I think if we had had the idea, we would have been like, yeah, that's funny. Like, let's write it down and maybe we'll get to it. But he kept pushing us to do it. And it was such a useful encouragement, and then ended up being like a great way for us to actually kind of disassociate from what had happened to us personally through the characters and be able to like really talk about ourselves with the kind of a little bit of a safety removed. So that was really great. And it ended up being this kind of amazing, weird love letter to our son. So
I think about my first feature back in North Carolina, 08. Chad actually helped on that. 08.
Hi, Chad.
Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad again. This episode's called Hey, Chad.
Chad GPT.
Chad. Wow. That's good.
He's fast.
And so the initial script that I had written was like serious and like drama. It was like a drama genre, whatever. And my friend was like, "This is funny, dude. Thanks for sharing it with me." And I'm like, "Funny?" And then of course it's like, "Wait a minute. I guess it could be funny." And then I just never. But I asked you that question, like, how did you respond when you first heard this is a horror thing? Because I remember just being in that space of like, it took me a minute, and then it was like, damn, this is so much better for that. For
Yeah, I think I think that's sort of the key with a lot of, especially in the writing process, is you are so personally connected to it that you're writing it from such you're usually writing something from such a space of reality that like that's what genre can help with, right? Is genre can always pull you out of it to exasperate it. Like that we always say like, yeah, I mean, my personal favorite, decade of film are these movies when literally money was just being thrown at movies and you could do whatever you wanted with them and go wherever you wanted with them. And people would watch them, right? Like you could literally just make a movie that is like, no 90s movies make sense because they are just like, they just fucking go for it. And that's just what excites me about filmmaking is like you can just go for it with any sort of like kernel of an idea.
Don't get me started on 90s movies because
I will
even like all this shit up here, you know what I mean? All these DVD, Blu-rays I still have up here where it's
I will
like
get you started because that is
we'll clear our schedule to talk about 90s.
Let's watch them together. I will geek out on 90s.
Well, this could be a good way to segue into a little bit of a past, film thing. Like what are some 90s movies? Let's talk about 90s movies. For you, like what I mean, it's a fucking
okay.
I mean, my all-time favorite movie, I will literally make new fans of this movie throughout my life, is Death Becomes Her.
Oh.
Wow. Hard
Levinson?
Huh?
Is it Barry Levinson?
Zemeckis.
Fuck. Zemeckis. Okay. Zemeckis.
But like, Die Hard, True Lies, anything.
I love True Lies.
Like anything that is like that is sort of a domestic, it starts as a domestic movie that turns into a thriller or a genre movie was like right up my alley. And I think it's probably due to my tumultuous growing up that I like just wanted to see parents get into turmoil.
Okay.
For me, a great one that is lesser known but should be because it's fantastic and actually was a reference for me for this movie a lot is a Eugene Levy comedy from '92 called Once Upon a Crime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brilliant. It's John Candy and Jim Belushi and Sybil Shepherd and Richard Lewis and Giancarlo Giannini and it's a Monte Carlo kind of like, couples, like starts as a rom-com about like placing a lost dog back with its owners and then turns into a murder mystery. And it's just so joyfully silly, but the characters' needs are all really, really high.
Uh-huh.
And I think that that's like kind of the frame that we're always looking to, if you sort of sell out your characters for the comedy,
Mm-hmm.
which feels like what happened in kind of the last decade of comedy for us, and like why there's a reluctance in studio to make big studio comedy now.
Yeah.
Is like, well, if it's just a premise comedy instead of like the characters really doing something emotional that an audience can relate to, I feel like it really flattens the genre out.
Totally.
And I think that that's where you're getting a lot of these sort of hybrids. Is if you're adding a genre element, it's just another way to kind of like introduce a real thematic without alienating the audience.
It's like comedy is serious business, really. I mean, all these genres, like you have to at least like know the beats and to understand. You need to understand the genre before you try to at least move away from it. I mean, if you put the comedy first before the characters, what they need, all the basic ingredients of a good story, then it won't work because comedy is not about laughs first. It's kind of ironic to say that actually, but it's like, in my opinion, it's more about the what is the concept of the gag or the gags in place.
Because it's not about
the common gaps between,
it's not about jokes. It's about like, I think that's I think that's sometimes the error in comedy. Is the trying to land a joke rather than like it just being circumstantial. I think we have 2 jokes in the movie, but the rest is all based on circumstance and human interaction.
Yeah, nice. Once Upon a Crime, Eugene Levy directed this. I've never seen this movie.
Oh, it's great. You'll
love
watch
it. It's
so silly.
This is the coolest thing about this podcast. It's like I don't have any trouble finding stuff to watch now. But
do you remember The Ref?
Yeah, with Leary?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dennis Leary, genius.
Yeah.
Genius movie. But again, starts as a drama, family falling apart, divorce over Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
The extended family is going to come over. Are they going to pretend that their marriage is still working? Some guy breaks into the house and now he's stuck with these fucking people. And it's like, it's such a simple, great setup.
Damn, it's got my wheels turning. What else from the 90s? That was similar to that. You know what? My favorite movie of all time right now, and it always changes. It's from 1995, I think. I didn't see it until 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
La Haine, the French movie.
Genius.
Oh, yes.
It's
Beautiful.
like so, 95 it was 30 years ago, and it plays like it's, oh my God. Like, can we just go back? Just give me anything. The worst movie in the 90s is better than any movie right now. Maybe that's
it's the truth. It's like we used to, in the 90s, we could go to movies and laugh together. Now it's like, it's either a Marvel movie or, like truthfully, the last movie I walked into that I had the best time in the world was The Substance, because the entire audience, it's a body horror, but it was fucking funny.
Yeah,
it was fucking funny.
And it didn't care. Like these movies that don't care if like they're not pandering to you.
Yeah.
It's like they're just gonna they have their own identities,
Yeah.
Well, and it's the challenge of it is like we're talking about this from a creative point of view, but it really is a financial conversation, because if you're making these movies through a studio or through a development process, you have to be with people who will support risk taking.
Yeah.
And the way that the sort of like commercial crunch of the business right now, that is not encouraged.
Right,
it is very difficult to make first of all, very difficult to make original films at all, but also to make original films that take those risks, even though those are the films that end up performing and connecting with an audience. But it is so hard to get somebody who is like constantly on the verge of being fired to take a risk and go up the chain to their boss and be like, yeah, this movie, about a weird thing deserves our 15 million, 20 million, 30 million bucks.
Yeah.
And I get that. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of pressure to ask somebody for that amount of money. But those are the ways that connect. And
for sure. And I think, obviously home video going away really affected it. Pre-sales and foreign sales getting all wonky. I mean, it's like, because late 80s, early 90s until the late 2010s, 2015s, pretty sweet spot, right? To be an independent filmmaker.
Yeah. I remember my first agent at ICM, I would keep pitching these ideas and he's like, you were born, go yell at your parents because you were born 10 years too late for the kind of stuff that you want to make. And that really fucked with my brain for a long time until honestly, like, Joel's encouragement, other mentors of ours encouragement and just David's encouragement being like, let's just write what we like.
Nice.
And then prove it out. Like, let's use this movie as a proof of concept that you can do these kinds of stories. And it's kind of worked. I mean, it's been great.
There is a way to succeed, even if things change. Times will change, and they will change for now. And I guess the last little note I just wanted to say, as far as, it is frustrating to have like the, Netflixes of the world being like the, the creators of their content and the exhibitors, really, right? I mean, there's like just a direct pipeline now. You can't really sell a movie in piece, like, in piecemeal, like you used to be able to, which then affects like how you can get an investor, people to part their money, because the money don't make the return, the ROI numbers don't make any sense anymore, right? The saturation has it all out of whack. All that being said, it's like
you didn't ask me a question on that one.
Yeah.
The cloud,
we're gonna pass on taking a hatchet to Netflix as a way to preserve our we got a child in private school. I think the one advantage I will say about those from a filmmaking perspective, the streamers offer you a really interesting safety net, which is eyes will be on your movie. And if you can take that pressure off yourself from the perspective of like, here we are, cameras are about to roll. Is anybody ever going to see this? If everybody knows what your distribution track is before you start, that is a real asset.
Totally.
And, and makes up for a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, you have to be reactive in this business to like where things are going to be in 5 years, because like we started making this movie 5 years ago and we weren't, in the middle of COVID when we were writing it, we're like, is there a film business anymore? Like, how do we make, is this going to work?
Yeah.
So to find Jesse Burgum at Pinky Promise and Kara Durrett, who produced the movie with us, who were like such advocates of exactly the thing that we wanted to make. It was such a pleasure to like go through that process with real allies. And so they're out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just
totally.
like,
it's not about the dark cloud, it's about the silver lining. I am a cheeseball positive person after I bitch for a minute. You identify the problem and then what is
get
the
it
solution?
out. Yeah, let it
what
out.
Is the solution, though? We're not going to be victims here. It's like there's always a way to succeed. And I do like a good challenge too. So so your movie. Let's go back to your movie.
Yes.
So you packaging, I guess. Can we talk about that and like how you packaged it, how it came together? How did you get your casting in place? How did once your producers came on?
I mean, the first thing that I realized that was really helpful, and that was like getting a producer on the movie, right? Like I think that is like having somebody who advocates for your movie who is not the creative lead was the number one. And so like Kara came up, we knew Kara personally for a very long time, and she just she bullied us into her producing the movie, which was necessary because Brian comes from a very independent film background where he's been burned quite a number of times, and so bringing on somebody like that is a very I'm speaking for him because he's said this in the past, but
sure.
But he's been burned many times, so bringing somebody on like that is a very personal thing to him, and then we went into casting, and honestly but both for the movie's sake, both of our characters are queer characters, and we got a list of talent that we could go out to, and Andrew was literally the first person on both of our minds.
Oh wow.
And he came on instantly, and then while we were on talking to him about the movie, we just alley-ooped the idea of Nick because because both Brian and I had heard a podcast recently, right before that, of Nick talking about he had just recently become a parent as well, and he was talking about like how his experience with becoming a parent was so close to ours. And so we just kind of pitched the idea to Andrew, and before we could even like reach out to Nick's reps, Andrew had sent him the script, and by that following Monday we had both of them on board.
Oh, nice.
In a sort of like uncharacteristic way of independent film, Kara had just been recently working with Jesse on a film together, and she just sent it to her and she said yes. So we were kind of oddly off.
It was really fast. Yeah,
Oh,
it was really
yeah.
fast.
Nice.
This doesn't happen except for Joel Edgerton, where you just get your money right away.
People fire hose money at Joel, which is awesome, but also sort of warped David's idea about how independent films get put together.
I see. So you've had a good first outing.
But I will say, as an advantage, when you're saying like, "Hey, how would you like to go spend 6 months in Rome?" Like people like prick up their ears a little bit easier. So
I assume it would be a fun shoot. Real quick before I forget, it's funny because actually, like a few weeks ago, I was at that taco spot in Los Feliz. Beside
Which one?
The one beside the theater, the cinema.
Oh
yeah.
And this kid bumps into my leg, and I look up, and I swear to God, it's Nick Kroll and his child.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. What was great is that
I remember being like, somebody get their fucking kid out of my way. Literally Nick. It's funny.
It was great actually, because we had our, Leah, his son was there, and our son was there too. And then when we came back, they were in school together, and like they're little best buds. So it's great, and we get to hang out all the time, which is a pleasure.
Amazing. Having kids is the best. I love it. So that's great. So it came together nicely. No problems at all. It was just perfect. That's great.
Absolutely
perfect.
Literally zero errors.
Wow, that's great. And so thanks for joining us, everybody. That's how easy it is.
Making a film is super easy. No, but I mean, there are certainly challenges and a lot of stuff we had to learn in terms of, when you're working here, you have all your people you rely on and all your favors that you can pull and, all that kind of stuff. And when you're making a movie over there, you have to really earn those relationships. And so that was different, and learn how they do business.
So you shot it in Rome, outside of Rome, I guess, the rural parts of Rome. Yeah. Okay. Because I couldn't tell. I was like, where are we at here? What was it like shooting over there? What are the crews like? What was your experience?
The crew was so fast. They were so great. Everybody down to like the grips and the sort of like temporary guys had read the whole movie.
Whoa.
Which changed the entire workflow of the movie.
Whoa.
Just that you didn't have to explain what was happening or why we needed something to happen. Everybody was in on the storytelling. And that was like going forward. I think that for me was like the biggest takeaway is like, before you hire somebody, make them read the movie and just go like, do you care about this? Will you be into it at 5 a.m. in the woods in the rain? Like, if yes, please come. If not, go away. They were so committed to it. They also loved that the movie is about kind of dumb Americans blundering their way through Italy. They related to that a lot.
That's funny.
And we realized really quickly there were 7 of us that we brought over and 150 Italians. And we were like, oh, we're making an Italian movie in English. So we better learn how they want to do this and oblige them, because that's going to get us the farthest. And that was they really took to that, because I guess a lot of the American crews that come over are like, this is how you make a movie, and this is the schedule we're going to do. Yeah. And they're like, we have a proud, incredible, cinematic history that is not to be denied, and so it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I mean, the Rome film industry. What is it, the big studio there that Scorsese shot Gangs of New York at? What is it?
Cinecittà.
Yeah. It's cool to just remember that Hollywood is not the end all be all. Like, you got the Berlin scene and you got the Rome scene and all this deep history. I used to grip for a while. That's how I got myself into the industry, out of Kinston, North Carolina, and into the film world. And anyways, they would never, I would try to read scripts if I could get them. You'd see sides and stuff, but that's such a foreign idea to have a grip read the script. But it would totally help. I feel like
it's incredible.
It wouldn't hurt, that's for sure. It would totally incentivize. Like, what are we doing here, as opposed to, here's your floppy,
Yeah, no, they would show up to us and be like, "How does this fit it?" Like, if you shoot out of order, but like they'd be like, "How does this part fit into this part?" And like even like props would be like, "Should the phone be plugged in this scene here? Because shouldn't it be not like?" And you're just like, "Oh, right, we are a team." Like they really work on films as a team, which is incredible. And I think as long as you have humility towards that, it's a beautiful experience.
Is there anything that's notably different between your experience at shooting in Rome and here?
Meals.
Meals? Better meals?
But
meal times.
Meal times incredibly.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have done quite a number of split days, but because of meal periods and meal times that they honor, we had to do all nights.
Okay. Gotcha.
But you just it's part of the culture. You can't argue with it.
But also, it's quite abusive here.
It is.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I haven't been on a big film set in a minute because I don't do that type of work anymore. But I remember working 20 hours a night sometimes.
Oh yeah,
And it's like, strap up, kid.
Well, also with the movie,
overtime is very fun too, because basically in Italy, because basically when you want overtime, they'll huddle together to decide whether or not they want to do the overtime.
Like that.
And then they come back
it's very democratic.
They come back to you and they tell you yes or no. So they'll spend 15 minutes deciding whether or not they'll give you the overtime. And then even if they say no, they've just taken 15 minutes away.
Oh, yeah. They talked about it. There's no, I mean, because I used to always hate when it was like 14 or 15 hour mark and people were like, we're going into golden time here, whatever. And it's like, I don't want to work more. I don't. I just want to go home.
I'm done.
Well,
it's like money or time. Which one do we want here?
Also like with a film like this where you're doing stunts at night and everybody's tired, you're like, we just shouldn't be shooting past a certain point. It's not safe.
Yeah.
And for the comedy stuff, like, sure, you want to let Andrew and Nick riff when they're like goofy and sleep deprived. That's fantastic. But if you're hitting a lady with a car, like, no thanks. Like, I want to get out.
A lot of stunts in this movie. A lot of stunts.
Tons, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I didn't think of it that way until I saw Nash's credit at the end. I'm like, of course they had they had stunt guy. It was one thing, like, it's crazy.
God.
It's crazy the pace that it picks up too. Once it's like, as far as like when it turns into this kind of a little bit of a genre shift, I guess you would say, right?
Yes.
And then it's like you guys waste no time in giving us some like moments.
Yeah.
It's like, shit.
I mean, why not, right? Like,
why not?
If we're going there, we might as well just keep doing it.
It's a series of kind of nightmares that can increase as it goes through, which is really good. I like my favorite scene is probably the what's his fucking name? The son.
Yeah.
With the knife, and he's in this communication error, that's a funny gag. That was a funny gag.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to be a dad, but he sounds like he's saying, you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
It was good shit. And then the fucking mouth to mouth with the blood and all this. I was literally eating a breakfast burrito when I was watching.
Honestly, that's how everybody should watch our movie, is eating a breakfast burrito.
From Jones on Third.
Whilst blood gags are happening in front of them.
Yeah.
But what was hilarious too is like, our Italian is pretty remedial. And then you have like 6 very serious Italian men having an argument over a blood pump, and you have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, but they're incredibly serious. And then it's like, okay, here we go. And then it's like, they do it and it's perfect. And then and then they like argue again. I mean, it's like, it's the cult. My family's Italian. So I'm like, I'm used to this sort of like culture of this, of like a loving argument about something where we're all on the same page. But it was so funny to be like, wow, because essentially this job is like playing pretend for a lot of money or with a lot of money. And like just the idea of like doing that with these incredibly serious technicians, which we needed for sure. But it was weird to be sort of removed from that process where, you're giving them some information of what you want, and then they're executing it in a language you don't really speak.
Was there a translator involved? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of them speak really good English, but but at least at the sort of department head level, but then the crews don't. Not all of the crews did. And certainly when they're kind of trying to figure something out, they wouldn't do it in English for our benefit.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our first AD was essentially, our first AD and PAs were essentially our translator. Like our Nunzia, who is our third lead, who is Zia Luciana, spoke literally maybe 3 words in English. And so that was also an interesting thing is like speaking to actors who don't speak the same language and trying to convey what you are wanting out of them was a lot of gesturing. Like we, you know, and so that, you know, and just to comment again, cause I don't think about the Italian crews is they'll just do it, right? Like they will just figure it out. If there's like for instance, like our special effects ladies who worked on the movie, if something wasn't working, it wasn't like who can I go to for this answer? They would just figure it out, and which is like how we like to work as filmmakers is like be the stupidest person in the room and learn from everybody else, totally. And that's just how everybody on this set worked. It was great.
Honestly, you know, my grip career really informs me a lot as far like being a good key grip is like that. I think you figure it out because nobody else is going to figure it out behind you type thing. When it comes to, you know, like how do we rig this thing or how do we make this platform in the middle of the air or whatever it might be. Okay, so what was like the hardest thing during production, you think? What's like the most challenging, the biggest challenge you had during production of this film?
I would say nights.
Yeah, doing lots of nights.
And COVID. Brian, our first AD. Who else at the same time?
A bunch of us went down on like day 10.
Oh no, COVID.
Yeah, and it was right when we were going to shoot our first nights in the woods with a rain rig, stunts and a car rig, and it was literally me and zero service. So like I couldn't even send Brian any takes or anything while we were shooting. So for me, those like 3 days were probably the hardest for me.
That's the scene too where the film kind of turns, right?
Yeah.
Well, which was hilarious too, because like we got, you know, the other thing is because there were 2 of us, sometimes we would split up. I would take like a stunt unit or he would or whatever. And so there was footage that because in the run of the show, we didn't have a lot of time to like review stuff back. So there was stuff in the edit when we would like get back to America and started cutting the movie where I was like, oh, I've never seen this. I didn't understand. I've never seen these scenes.
It's so wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was cool. And it was like, but it was interesting because, you know, you have to be so focused on what's in front of you, like what's on the monitor.
Yeah.
And that's a really good lesson, is to be in a trusting partnership like this where you can divide the labor and be like, oh, those scenes are great and they turn out cool. It's not how I would have gone about it, but it works out better for the movie. And you realize like those kinds of instincts are so good to like. This job can be so much about control that sometimes letting go is actually really helpful.
What would you have done different, Brian? What would you have done?
Probably just made it funnier or something.
It's so true. I mean, when I switched to documentaries, it was that's the whole nutshell right there, where it's like, I don't have control over certain things and I love it. Too much control fucks shit up. I've had control and it's like, I don't want you to watch those movies. Actually, I'm like, please don't watch that. But,
truthfully, like that is the best part about filmmaking too. Is like I think that as a filmmaker, you get to lose control so many times because at the end of the day, like you will always get a chance to do something new with it, and it's like that's what's so fun about this business is like. Not only do you write it, not only do you direct it, not only do you edit it, but then it's out in the world and like how it's interpreted is different than how you even edited it.
Oh my God.
I think that's what's
totally,
you know,
co-directing. My first feature I co-directed. Hi, who's that?
Yeah, we have a puppy who
in heat.
Who is unneutered as of today.
He's been very good up until this point.
He has been
very impressive. Good job. What's his name?
His name is Animal.
His name.
After
Animal.
After the famous Muppets character.
Nice. Animal, what's up? Co-directing, yeah. I remember I've done it twice, one for a feature, one for a short. It was cool, but after the second time, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I guess it's all about the person you're doing it with too. But it was very effective on that first feature where we would divvy up duties, and I was mostly with like the actors. I would do the directing the actors thing, and then Troy would do most of the technical, like where are we going to put the camera, how are we talking to the DP more so. But yeah, I guess are there any challenges to co-directing with one another, or maybe the better question would be I don't know, what is like a what's a quirk that you guys share when you guys work together?
I mean, there's a real advantage to being married to someone for 15 years before you do this thing.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like our taste level, and like there's
Marcus, what we're saying is marry Troy.
Yeah, it's time to put a ring on it.
I've been procrastinating.
No, but like when you have that level of trust built in, it's not like you ever feel kind of pressure to be smart or good or cool or look smart or good at you're like, it just is about like kind of making the other one laugh or
okay.
Like pitching an idea that they like.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was very helpful because it's such a hard job. It's like to be able to be like week 4 of nights and be like, babe, I don't have a great idea right now, I need you to take the next 20 minutes, like, and just being able to offload that was so helpful, because again, it's like you can't nobody bats 1,000, and like sometimes your idea for a scene is not working and you just need to be like, do it, I don't know, and that was really great. And I find like our taste level is so known to each other and so similar that there was never a kind of like big argument about what we were trying to accomplish, because we were trying to accomplish the same movie. And that would be my advice for anybody like working on anything, whether you're co-directing or not, is just like all be making the same movie. Be heading in the same direction, and then you're kind of safe.
Which is a good lead way into like post-production editing, because working with an editor, it's a beautiful thing. I love this process, but also like it's fucking so difficult, especially with the doc stuff. It's the volume is crazy. The collaboration with the editor and your editors, where it's like, maybe it's similar to co-directing, where you want to hear and be heard, right? And you want the best idea to win, and what does that look like, and how does that play out? And I just love an editor who, and I believe in different editors are good for different projects, right? But I think a good editor is somebody who is not a yes person, of course, stands by what they believe in, but also is coming from a place of where you're trying to tap into with understanding the themes and understanding the what you're trying to get at here. As far as your editor on this project, what did that process look like? What was post-production like for you, putting the film together?
I mean, Nancy Richardson she's a master, and I completely agree with you. You do not want a yes person to just be like, to taking all of your ideas and just piling them all together. We walked into a rough cut that was already a movie, and that was just such a relief, because then we could just play. I think she was such a perfect fit to this film, because we work in such a way where we'll have big ideas, and then we would put all the notes down. We would go off and have lunch, and by the time we came back, she had implemented those notes into 3 different kind of cuts that we could then put into the movie and figure out. And that was what worked so well on this project, was because I think specifically because once we hit a certain element, like you said, in that genre shift of the movie, we can't go back, right? Like so many movies, you could take the middle and put it up top, and you can take the ass end of the movie and put it in the middle, and you're always rearranging scenes. Yeah. Where for us, we kind of put ourselves in a corner of like once we hit a certain point in the plot, we really can't go back from it, right? We can't reorder this movie very much. And so it was really wonderful to work with somebody who was such an excellent technician at scene work, because then we could just really take scene by scene and manicure it to its fullest potential. She stuck by things that she really knew were supposed to be in this movie, because like, you know, you always get the shorten down the top of the movie so that you can get to the thing. Guys, we have two dogs, sorry.
Animal and friend.
So you can get to it. And she was like, no, if you don't have, she was an ally with us the entire time, that if you don't have their relationship at the top of the movie, then you will not forgive them for the things that they have done.
You got to plant the seeds. You can't rush through it. Yeah. And expect some. Yeah.
Well, and it was a great, I think working with us was an interesting learning opportunity for her as well, because like we come out of this much more independent side where we're very experimental in the cut. I like to work from bad ideas. Like, what's the worst thing we could do right now?
Because you never know.
You never know. And that gives you a place to start, and it can only get better. You know, I think Nancy at first was like, you want to do what? And then after a while, it was like, oh, no, this is, you know, we see this as very iterative. And we knew that we didn't have like a studio breathing down our neck to be like, where's the, you know, like, you know, sort of
which
like.
is a huge asset, right? To have.
Yeah.
To not have to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was a great experience. And I think, you know, she cut Stand and Deliver, Twilight.
I'm looking at it right now. She did a movie that I worked on as a grip, The Last Song, Miley Cyrus movie.
Yeah, I mean, she is just an absolute assassin, and was so cool and such a great person to work with.
Did you already know you were going to go with her? Was she a friend already, or what?
No, it was a recommendation of one of our executive producers, who had her recut some movies at a studio, and was like, he was like very much like, guys, do whatever you want to do. I want to support you, et cetera, throughout the whole process. And then we got to the editor, and he's like, you will hire Nancy Richardson. And it was such a like hard, you know, endorsement that we were like, great, let's meet. And I'm very happy when somebody like plants a flag like that.
Nice. Yeah. I made the huge mistake of editing my first few films. You know, but I had no money, but, you know, I'm not going to beat myself up too much. These were micro budget films, but at the same time, it's like, I would never do that again. I mean, I edit my stuff, but like bringing on someone to give that.
Yeah, I think I truly, like, we're collaborative beings, Brian and I, that like, I always say, like, pick the route you want to do for that project, but like have other voices, have other people. Like, I think that's something I learned from Joel from the get-go, which was the best film school knowledge ever, is best idea wins no matter who has the idea.
Yeah.
And never, like, making a movie is a long road, and if it's just your voice, you don't have every good day, right?
No.
And so it's of service to use everybody's voice in the making of the movie, because nobody's coming on to making a movie wanting to fuck up the movie, right? Nobody's there going like, how can I make this the worst movie possible? Yeah. Everybody's there with their name on it, trying to make it the best that it can be. So why not use them? So
yeah. What about test screenings? You guys do a lot of that, or how does that?
We did friends and families, but we didn't do any formal testing before we premiered it.
But friends and family is a nice little kind of precursor. You know, like, I'm sure you still ask them what they thought, and maybe.
Oh yeah. I mean, we love notes. I think that always surprises people. Like, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of directors are like, yeah, we love notes. And then you hire them, and then they're like, fuck your notes. I hate you. I never want to hear from you.
My ego hurts now.
Yeah. We have no kind of dignity about that stuff at all. And have, you know, cultivated an incredible group of people who will tell us the truth, which is the other really important thing in that process.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we definitely have a bunch of ringers who come in and help us out.
I also wonder if, because it was such a personal story to us, that because we had so much connectivity to it, that even if we got a note that needed a major change, we still had the story that was ours, right? Like, we had our,
still there.
We had our own discovery with it, that now it can be anybody else's. And we just allowed that to happen, I think.
I just brought on, I did this for the first time, but it was a suggestion by a documentary friend. I had figured out my 2-hour version of my documentaries. Yeah. I've been following this private investigator around. and his it's a comedy
Cool.
too. It's real life. It's great, but it wasn't quite there. It was like, this isn't good enough. Like, what can I do? And my friend was like, you should bring on the story consultant. She's saved my ass so many times. And I brought her on, and she I'd never done it before. She watched the film and then gave notes, time coded notes, just in like ideas of like, you should maybe switch these scenes around or cut this, or you're being redundant here. Why are you telling me this again, et cetera, et cetera. Like, oh, and it made the movie so much better, you know? So it was a very specific way, a new take that I'd never done, where like, you're a story consultant. It was huge, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I love hearing that, because it really does. There is always a like in saying like your movie isn't done until somebody says you have to lock picture. It's like, why not? Like, as long as they're a trusted person in your own brain.
Yeah.
Like why not bring somebody else's voice on? Why not see what somebody else says? Because unless you're just making this for your own viewing, like, why not get multiple voices and multiple views on how many people this can affect and what they have. You could take or leave their note.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, what is the best? And then when you hear the same note more than once, that's when you should perk up, I feel like. So it's like, wait a minute, okay, yeah, I should maybe do this or that. Yeah. And also, it's this battle between wanting to be done with the film because you're exhausted, and versus like, what is the film ready or not? You know, like, we can't. It's as good as it can be.
I would, if given the opportunity, I'd be Michael Manning this shit forever. Like, I will cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. For as long as anybody allows.
Because you can't put it back in once you put it out. You can't put the shit back in. And I learned that lesson.
Yeah, and I mean, not in a precious way, but in a way of going like, oh, is there, can you make it clearer? Can you make it more refined? And like you're saying, like we would get some very straightforward, clear notes, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Like, let's just try it, and maybe it's better. So,
fun fact: Michael Mann was in my waiting room when my kid was being born. Weird.
Wow.
He was in your what?
The waiting room, the Cedars-Sinai waiting room. My dad was talking to him. He gave him my business card.
Of course. Your parents are the best agents.
Yeah.
Of course.
I never heard from him. Oh god. Okay. Last few questions. Thank you all for doing this. So Joel and Nash connection? How did you guys meet? How did y'all connect?
I met Joel. I was, I think I mentioned earlier, I was acting, and I was talking to one of Brian and I's mutual friends, Mary Yoon, who works at Vertigo now. And I was just saying how much I never went to film school, but I had a real interest in film and how it worked. And I didn't even know what like a first AD was at the time. Like, I knew that they told me what to do on set, but like,
yeah.
And she was like, these two brothers who just made, a very successful movie in Australia, Animal Kingdom, are working their way into the States. You should meet with Joel. And he just needed an assistant at the time. And I went and met with him. And 3 weeks later, we were shooting previews for The Gift.
Oh, wow.
And then that movie got made like 2 or 3 years later, and we were just like, it was. I feel like in a similar way to Italian filmmaking, they made work the same way, where you just do it. You don't think about it. You don't overanalyze like how the process works and who you need to do this particular thing. They're just like, somebody wants to see a proof of concept for this movie. Let's shoot it in our kitchen 2 days later.
Nothing to lose. Just
we were literally shooting with Chris Pratt in Joel's kitchen in his rental apartment. Like 3 weeks later, previews for The Gift.
It's like you put too much gloss on something, anyways. You're on your pins and needles, and it's like that infects the movie. It's like, just be like, even these documentaries. Like, the best scenes are the ones that I had to shoot on an iPhone.
Yeah,
but it was so freeing because we could put the camera in certain place. They were able to be more even so themselves, Yeah. And anyways, yeah, it's just, I guess, it's just all about just doing it and not thinking about doing it so much, because the anticipation will fuck you up. It's like going before you go exercise. If you think about it too much, you might negotiate with yourself out of an exercise. I might just do half my workout today because I'm tired.
Well, it's how
just do it. All right.
It's how film started, right? Like, you didn't like. I love our managers and I love our agents, but we didn't like when early film was being made. There weren't people in the middle. There weren't lawyers. There weren't people, showing you how the different parts of the business worked. You just made movies, right? Yeah. Which, like, I think in this, like, we need our representation. We need the people who are behind us. but like in a creative aspect, it's like, yeah, just make the movie. Like, just do it. Just do it.
I think that's where our love for this comes from, is like making movies with your friends in high school or something, and like just getting a little shitty camera and like shooting whatever you make. And that is such an immediate process. And then the bigger and bigger the budgets get of the things that you're making, the more time it takes and the more talking there is and so forth.
I think some of our favorite things that we would do on set were just like fun takes with the guys, right?
Oh my God.
This is what it is about, is like, this is something that we've been working on for 5 years. There's got to be moments of joy and fun in it.
5 years. 5 years is, I mean, half a decade. And like, I'm 4 years almost in on this thing. And it's like, man, I need to stop telling myself this, but this one's got to be good. Because, it takes this long. But then it's like, you know what am I worried about? It is good. And I like it, and it is good. And it's like, but make sure it's done too. And I'm to the point now where like, we're almost there. But I'm like tweaking and dusting off the edges and all this stuff. But
do we have a title yet or no?
It's called LAPI.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's about this aging 65-year-old PI who is stuck in the past, as one good detective character should be.
I love it.
And he has this protege that's 28 years old that also lives with him. I would love, you guys might actually dig this. I'd love to share it with you when it's ready.
Yeah, please do.
It's like this protege mentor story, and then they're trying to solve the case of who killed the mentor's mentor.
Oh,
wow!
Who
Great.
was a fucking huge PI named Fred Otash back in the day that nobody knows about, but they based Chinatown off of and all that.
Oh wow!
Apparently he died of a heart.
Okay, I have a documentary that you need to direct.
Okay.
Which is, I was watching this Dateline, my favorite television show.
Yeah.
Where it was literally about, like, it was one of the typical Datelines where it's about, a girl is dead, they're suspecting the boyfriend. Then there's this mother who, it's a cold case. She her daughter's killer hasn't been found for 15 years. All of a sudden, smash cut in the middle of the episode, this woman out of nowhere sees the mother on television talking about this cold case, talking about how her daughter's crime still hasn't been solved, and that she thinks it's the boyfriend. This woman goes and befriends the boyfriend, then gets into a sexual relationship with this boyfriend, all because she found out she had a real inspiration seeing this mother's story. She gets in deep into where she starts to discover all of this stuff about this guy, and then she disappears.
Whoa. Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
David only likes to pitch stuff that we don't have the rights to.
Yes.
That's his classic move in a pitch meeting. We'll be like, you know what I'd like to make? Space Camp. And you're like, great. Do you control the material? We do not.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But why not pitch the stuff you can't make? Because then you could just do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
If you don't have the rights to
the
it.
documentary stuff, you could just fair use it. Just hire
Yeah.
Donaldson and Califf and pay them fucking $30,000 for a fair use letter.
Marcus, I will find all of the. I am a true crime fanatic.
I think the characters in this piece, and we'll wrap it up here. But my shit came out funny, and I wasn't sure it was going to be at first. But that's the best thing about it. That's what you want. Your characters are the stars, as opposed to the plot or something. They're hilarious. They bicker back and forth. They're like fucking Odd Couple. Okay, round on the corner. Last two questions. One, so distribution, film festivals, South by Southwest. You already did that, and then you got Vertical, right? Vertical's representing.
Yeah.
And so, how did that come on? How did they come on board? How did that work out?
They just loved the movie. I mean, they saw it at South by and pursued it, and were just very passionate about it. And it was important to David and I to have, well, more David than me, but definitely David, to have a theatrical, because of the way that the movie works on audiences and just our kind of taste. And they were committed to that also. So it ended up just being a good match.
Amazing. So they've been good to work with.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. Okay. Final question for both of you guys. What would you tell your early filmmaking self if you could go back in time? What would you say? What would you do? Would you
do it sooner? I don't know. I think in how we were talking earlier, I think get out of your own way and just play is literally what I probably, nothing is too precious. I think also I would tell myself like it is more than just you. And once you have an idea, a kernel of an idea, there will be 150 people who will help you make that idea. And it'll be everybody's process. And that filmmaking isn't just directing and writing. It's gripping, it's electrical, it's everybody, work like the Italians do, and everybody is a part of the project. It's everybody's project.
Nice.
I would tell myself, be like more aware that it's all a game. You know what I mean? Like that it's not, that nothing is personal, that nothing is, just make things joyfully and don't ever feel like confined by what the industry is doing, and just do what you like. My older self never feels like we're in competition with anybody. Nobody else does what we do. Even when we're pitching on jobs that are competitive, it's like there is nobody who can do what we do. And we can't do what anybody else can do. You know what I mean? So it's like whatever is happening in the business or in the world, it's like just do the best version of your own stuff.
Yeah.
And that is like the best currency, is to be like authentically in your own vision.
This podcast is brought to you by Valerian Projectors. Head over to Valerian.com to get yours today. That's VALERION.com. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media at Past Present Feature. And let us know in the comments section what movies you're watching. Thank you so much for listening to the Past Present Feature podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.